People wonder why I get stressed out when I do my videos sometimes. I just did this entire haircut step by step, and I forgot to hit the record button. And I'm watching this, and I look and I go, wait a minute, where's my record button? And it wasn't on. And I literally almost took this mannequin and threw it through the window, because this was such an amazing breakdown and step-by-step tutorial of this haircut. So what is this haircut, right? I'm gonna break it down as best as I can. This is an 80s inspired, rock and roll haircut. A lot of people in 80s movies or 80s TV shows have had this, even some people in the 70s, but this is like what we call hair glam, or glam rock hair, and this could be worn on a male or a female, where you've got heavy fringe or heavy bangs in through here, right? And then everything else is layered. So I was in the middle of blow drying this, but what I want to do is explain to you, how did I get this haircut? So let's go. So the first thing you need to do when you're doing these types of haircuts is you have to look and see what is currently existing in the haircut. Meaning, what does the client have prior to this type of haircut? Is it very unbalanced? Is it heavily layered? Is it something that you can't even achieve this haircut? Is it the perfect shape for it? You have to look and see what is going on and actually analyze. You have to analyze the haircut, right? Very, very, very important before you even start cutting. So then you can break down and troubleshoot, yes, I use the word troubleshoot, what you need to do to create the shape. So what I did in through here is I started right in the sides here, and I created my angle going down this way, and I overextended this part back here like that, and I cut everything because I wanted to maintain the length and the weight, but also connect this in through here, right? I wanted to create a connection going in through here. So I did that on both sides. Then I trimmed up the length, because the length was a little bit stringy on the bottom because it wasn't cut. And then I went around and created my angle and created the perimeter in the very, very front. Every place that I cut hair, I made sure that I was standing right in front of where I needed to be, right? Very, very, very important. I wanted to make sure that I was standing so my body position was comfortable, and that I'd achieve the right type of length and look. So then, once that was done, I then had to connect and create layers throughout the back and the top. The whole thing is heavily layered. That's the key to this haircut. So how did I go about doing that? Is I took a horizontal section and I brought it straight up, and I realized something. I realized that, and this is very important when it comes to haircutting, is that you've got the front length and you've got this. One thing you don't ever want to do is cut this much shorter than the front here, especially when you're trying to have a heavily layered look with a very good flow. It's always best to leave this a bit longer so you can blend from shorter into longer and have a seamless flow. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see. So I created my guide, and then I took panels on the left side of the head and brought it straight up, and I cut, and then I took probably, I would say, 2 sections to 3 sections the most, where you're bringing the hair straight up this way and cutting it horizontally, right? Because what happens is you're removing weight by doing this, but at the same time, you don't want to make the bottom too stringy, because that could happen. It could happen if you remove too much weight. It's horrible, and I've actually seen that a lot. Everybody brings the hair straight up, and then the layers are so out of whack on the bottom, and the hair's so thin, it's because this is the technique that's done. So after you have this all connected and blended in throughout the top here, then you go in and you cut everything going from top to bottom this way vertically, because now you want to maintain the weight and the length on the bottom, and you just want to remove what's absolutely needed. When I say you want to maintain the weight, I mean that you want this to be a solid looking haircut. You want to have a good solid foundation like in a house. You don't want to cut it so that the ends of the hair or the sections of hair are very, very stringy and thin. That's the last thing you want, and that's why blending this together is crucial. So next was the most important part, or the second most important part of the haircut. That's connecting the top to the back, and I've done this many times. This one section right in through here, and I've had a lot of people say, oh, leave comments saying that, oh, he said, not to hold it straight up, but he held it straight up. I'm holding it straight up vertically this way, not this way. This is the only way and the best way to connect the top to the top back, is like this. You'll see the longer hair, you cut that, and you make sure it's all blended and connected right here so there's no harsh lines, there's no steps in the hair. Once that's done, then yes, I will go in and cut the hair and section the hair straight up horizontally. You know why? Because guess what? We're leaving the past behind. We've already cut that, and now I'm going to work in my mohawk section right down the middle. You got the top, the corners, and the sides. So once we have all this cut and blended, then it's time to move on to the corners. So the corners, this is again where the round of the head is, right in through here. Then I like to extend this all the way down, and we're going to then cut and blend the corners into the bottom here. That's why when I cut this in the back, I bring everything straight back, because I want to maintain that weight so I can take it off when I need to, instead of, you know, cutting it and making it too thin. Then I'll create a big massive hole and the hair won't look right. So here I'm really just following the head shape and making a perfect balance between the top and the sides and the back. And as you can see in through here, it's got a great flow to it. So now the same thing on the other side. And if you're a stylist, you want to make sure that you can have the client facing you, because this is really good for your back. I see a lot of times where stylists, you know, when they're cutting this, they'll reach over the other side, and all that's doing is it's causing pain. I had a back injury a couple years ago, and I never had the surgery because it's too much of a risk, but I still have back pain. So I got to make sure that I'm very balanced, right? And my posture is really good when it comes to cutting hair. So now the last part of this, which is on the top, is you want to make sure that, and this is the last most important piece, right? You bring everything straight up, right down the middle. Again, think of this as like a mohawk, and you look for inconsistencies, right? It's great if you comb this up and there's nothing there that needs to be cut, but at the same time, this is the best way to check, to make sure that the entire haircut is balanced and blended. And this will be the time, even for myself, where you may find some things that need to be adjusted, right? It's very crucial for this type of haircut to go back. Trust me, from my experience, I know this. The client will go home, they'll sit there and take a comb and comb it straight up. It's happened to me before, and yes, that means I may not have cut it even. I was uneven Steven that day, but the client will go home, especially if they're lunatics about their hair, and they will sit there and try to comb and measure everything, and it's just, if that's what they want to do, that's fine. So just be prepared, and that's why it's better to go back in. So when it was wet, I used Tidal Wave. I used about 5 or 6 spritzes just throughout the top layer. You don't want to use too much sea salt spray because it'll end up making the hair a bit chalky. All right, so then I started blow drying the hair, and as you can see, we're getting that look where it's heavier in throughout the front here, the heavy fringe, and then blended into the back. So let's finish this up, and I'll show you the end result. All right, so I started off using my hands when I did this because I wanted to just get a good flow in the hair first, and I wanted to create some movement. But there's a few ways you can go about styling this. So you can bring the hair all forward, and then watch this, and then reverse it and bring everything back, and then bring this forward, right, like this. So what you're doing now is you're opening up, and you're actually melting in those layers together, right? You're really just putting the icing on the cake and bringing everything together that you just cut. Now for the front, you can do one of two things, right? You can do one of two things. And to get that volume, it's from the blow dry. I did use a round brush, but also you can go in and scrunch from the base here, right? Just like that, to get that fullness, right? It's just go in with your hands at the scalp and just kind of pull the hair out and make sure you're just creating good balance throughout the entire thing like this. Now, the front, you can have it brushed back. There's a lot of times where you'll see men or, a male or female, they brush it back, and look at these little kind of soft baby bangs in through here, right? Soft kind of bangs, that's simply because the hair is the perfect length where you can brush it back and then just these little pieces come down. This was a very, very popular look in the 80s, right? And still, if you're somebody who wears your hair like that, then good for you. If you want to wear, right, something very, very heavy, then bring it all down this way, cover up the front here, and then you can kind of scrunch it out and do the same thing. All you simply did was just bring the hair forward like this to create a much fuller bang area into here. So this is great, especially when you have the hair perfect. So it's really all about the layers. It's about the shape. It's about, yes, the blow dry. I did use a round brush just because I wanted to create a little more fullness and roundness in through here. And I wanted to just kind of smooth it out as well. Sometimes mannequin hair, it's a little bit more dry. And here we have, as you can see, the head shape, right? It flows perfectly down, follows the head shape nicely. And you could also get a lot of volume and lift in through here if you wanted to. No problem. See that? Here we go. You can use a little hairspray if you want. And I think this came out awesome. I'm really so pissed off that I forgot to hit the record button. This is what quarantine does, all right? You start to lose your mind. But let me know in the comments below if this is something you've been, like the Prince of Persia, this is the haircut basically, right? It doesn't have to be from the 80s, but it's all about the layering and the texture, right? The layering and the texture. That's really what this haircut is. So all you guys who keep spamming me for the Prince of Persia haircut, this is basically it. So, yeah, let me know in the comments below. Do you wear your hair like this? Is this something that is kind of interest to you? Is this something that you used to wear? Or is this something that helped you if you're a stylist or whatever? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay safe and healthy. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time for more videos with a Salon Guy.